Hello, everybody. I'm Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet, about to be joined by Ken Wiebe from the Winnipeg Free Press. Together, we are Kenny and Renny, and this is the Kenny and Renny post-game show following, another carbon copy game for the Winnipeg Jets. Time and time. You know what it means when a team has spent, 26, 27 straight games? I think it's 26, allowing 3 goals or less. What it means is that it doesn't matter who you play. It doesn't matter what the opponent is. It doesn't matter whether that opponent is hot coming into the game, the way that the Minnesota Wild were, or maybe struggling a little bit like the Tampa Bay Lightning were. What it means is that time and time and time again, you force your opponent to play your style of game. And that's what we're looking at here as the Winnipeg Jets have taken far more than a quarter of a season and just turned it into the same style of game over and over and over again. What it's turned it into is the only way that this team can lose are nights where, the bounces don't go your way. The puck just doesn't go into the net for you. You hit 4 or 5 posts or whatever it was in that Chicago game. And what it means as well is quite often when you do lose, you're gaining a point because you're taking it to overtime. It just means that the Winnipeg Jets are dictating how the games are played when the Winnipeg Jets are playing in those games. And that's what we saw again here tonight. And we talked about this from the beginning of the season on. If you can play the Rick bonus system, it gives you a chance to win every night. But the Jets have gone beyond this, having a chance to win every night. And they talked about it, and Vladimir Mestikov talked about it. This team understands and knows how to grind now, is what he said after the game. They know that when they get into a game and they go down 1-0, they know what it requires in that game to not go down 2 or 3-0. They know it requires playing a specific kind of game to get back into it. They know when they do get that edge and they go up in that game, they know what it requires to take that and go a little bit further and get that much more of a lead. So tonight they stretch it to 3-1. They wait for the other teams to make the mistakes. I'll say this, for the most part, if you take a look at the games where the Winnipeg Jets did lose, Montreal, you're thinking about that game, go back to the San Jose game, go back to the Chicago game. In those games, they're not making a glaring error or a mistake. And tonight, maybe this is a different game. Maybe, just maybe, this is a different game if Andrei Vasilevskiy doesn't make the mistake that he makes, throwing it up the ice, turnover by Vladimir Mestikov, who finds Nick Ehlers, who puts it into the back of the net. Maybe it's a different outcome if he doesn't do that. If he doesn't make that mistake, maybe Tampa comes down and scores late, sends it into overtime. Who knows what happens in that situation? But the one thing that you can fairly count on, and I talked about this, I went through the 3 goals that Minnesota had scored on them in the last game the Jets played, and I pointed out very specific, not huge, not massive mistakes, but just little kind of mistakes that they were making, and the kind of like little details that can be cleaned up. Once again, the Winnipeg Jets are bang on when it comes to their details on this night, and they beat a team that one player, one of its best players, if not its best player, gets desperate. And what happens when you make a team desperate quite often is the best players on that team will think, well, I've got the skill to get us back into this game. And they abandon the team structure and they try to do something special because the other team is making them feel like it will take something special to score on them. That's how teams feel against the Winnipeg Jets right now. The first goal that scored in this game, something special had to happen. A phantom call had to happen on Adam Lowry in order for him to end up in the box and give the Tampa Bay Lightning a chance to score their way back into this game. That's the feeling that teams are left playing against the Winnipeg Jets at this stage. You need to do something special if you are going to score on this team. We saw that against Chicago. Connor Bedard did something special twice, and it ended up being what it took to get the Chicago Blackhawks over the hump against the Winnipeg Jets in that game. But even great teams, even championship pedigree teams like the Tampa Bay Lightning get backed into a corner against the Winnipeg Jets where they feel they need to do something special to make it happen in that game. And that's essentially what seals the deal in this game. So much to talk about. This is another night where Connor Hellebuck outdoes his opponent. Important one, I think, in Andre Vasilevsky, because we should have a conversation about this, where these two goaltenders rank probably the two best goaltenders of a generation. And I don't think for a second that Connor Hellebuck doesn't look across the ice in this game and see a guy who maybe outside of Canada, maybe outside of Winnipeg, is probably considered to be the 1A to the 1B in Hellebuck of that generation. I know everyone here is going to disagree with that, but we can have the conversation and see why that would be the consideration outside of Winnipeg. But I end it like this before we bring Ken into this whole situation here. You take a look at the Winnipeg Jets and a first line that's gone quiet for the last little while. Some tweaks by the coach. We get to talk about that. Love the different looks and how that looked. Love Vladimir Mesnikov and what he's brought to this team. But you take a look, and what the Winnipeg Jets do is they put themselves in a situation where they don't have to be special to win games or to score goals. It's a way of me saying, like, this team isn't where it is because of Mark Scheifele. This team isn't where it is because of Nick Ehlers. This team's not where it is because of Adam Lowry. This team isn't even where it is because of Connor Hellebuck. Every single player on this team holds a piece of the wins that they have night in and night out. The Winnipeg Jets keep winning because of the Winnipeg Jets. The individual has been removed from this. It's one of the reasons why Ken and I both thought that there would not be a significant drop-off to the Winnipeg Jets game once they lost Kyle Connor, their best scorer, no doubt. The Winnipeg Jets succeed because of the Winnipeg Jets. The individual has been removed from this. You hear it in their commentary after the game and how they prepare, how they know that their team game is the special sauce for this team. And you saw it again on this night. Another big win for the Winnipeg Jets, another challenge swatted aside as this team now finds itself, I believe, I hadn't looked to see where Colorado is. I'll do it quickly here. But yeah, I believe the Colorado Avalanche lost this evening. And that means your win. Oh, no, they came back and won that game. So they're back in first place here. But the Jets put a little bit of distance between them and the Dallas Stars, who lost on this night. I think the Dallas Stars are the true challenge for the Winnipeg Jets here. I expect a time very soon in the future where the Winnipeg Jets not only move back into first place as they flip-flop back and forth in that spot, not only moving into first place, but holding on to that first place spot significant time to come. I've seen enough from this team to know that they know how to handle the success that they're having this year. I expect that's the path they're going to be traveling it very soon. That's my take on the whole thing. Time to bring in the man with the best music in the business for his take. Here comes Kenny. Ken, I've been trying to place that look that you've got there and what it's been making me think of. The great suit with the great tie and the dark shirt. And it hit me the other day. There was a video game circa like 10 years, maybe 15 years ago, called Hitman, simply Hitman. And the character in it, he's got the same haircut as you. Okay. He's got that same classic look as you. Timothy Olyphant, one of my favorite hunks in Hollywood for a generation, played him in a movie. That's who you look like. That's who Frankie and the boys down at Vittorio Rossi got you looking like. And it is a killer look, and it looks good, Ken. Got to say, if you're looking for a killer look, you know what to do. Head on down to Vittorio Rossi. Walk in. Down on Corden Avenue, loudly proclaim that Kenny and Renny sent you, ask for Frankie and the boys. And if you want to look killer, they're the guys who know how to do it. Ken, another game. I don't know. I don't want to say this is getting boring by this stage, because it most definitely is not. But to see the same game plan repeated over and over and over again, not 5 games, not 10 games, not 20 games, we're seeing the Winnipeg Jets basically be able to say this to whoever walks into their rink or whatever rink they walk into. This is the style of game we're playing tonight, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, it's super. I mean, we were there you were in the room. We were talking to Steven Stamkos, but I spoke with John Cooper after, Sean, and as I wrote in my piece in the Winnipeg Free Press just now, John Cooper had the game plan. He basically said, you better not give up a lot of goals, because if you think you're going to score 3 or more against the Jets, very often it's probably not happening. So, I mean, we've been in plenty of those scrums with John, and he can be complimentary. But he doesn't just throw around empty calorie compliments. And
no.
he's been in on the Jets from the beginning, Sean. He was there when the Boston Bruins had 0 regulation losses. He was comparing the Jets with them. And he was basically singing their praises at the morning skate. And I'm sure that, he had to have been impressed by them in the game today. So, yes, Connor Hellebuyck was asked to make a few saves. It was another important game for him. 33 saves is a good night for Connor Hellebuyck, but no even strength goals allowed. Yes, I understand the Lightning are not the, they're not the Lightning of 5 years ago or two or 3 years ago, but their top 2 lines are fantastic. They're filled with ample talent. Nikita Kucherov is leading the NHL in scoring, and, at even strength, the Jets had him basically kept to the outside. So, I mean, there were some moments for the Lightning for sure. Impressive. Vintage Steven Stamkos one-timer special. But outside of the power play markers, it's not like there was a shooting gallery created. And yes, we understand the Lightning were playing with 5 defensemen. Yes, we understand that completely. And Victor Hedman did not have a lot of help on the back end tonight. But this is the Jets, typical identity type of game. Special teams is still a struggle for them. There's no doubt about that. Their power play had ample opportunity to put that game away. No doubt about it. But at 5-on-5, the Jets were very solid again. They, and as Neil Pionk pointed out, when the breakdowns happen, there's Connor Hellebuyck to take care of business. So, I mean, it's like you said. I mean, we have plenty to talk about, but the storyline is the same on a lot of nights, and not just a lot of nights. We're talking about a third of the season is what we're talking about. 26 consecutive games of 3 or fewer allowed. And as I've been saying, Sean, 7 of those 26 are 3, and the rest of them are 2 or fewer. And that's the really impressive part, to me anyway. And as you mentioned, I mean, we've been talking about complementary scoring, and hey, there's Vladislav Nemesnikov chipping in 3 assists. There's Morgan Barron. There's the 4th line, Sean. For all of those years where people were complaining about who's on the ice, protecting the lead late, the 3rd line's out there and the 4th line's out there, and deservedly so, and they delivered again. So there's Alex Iafallo, who went 18 games without a goal, Sean, suddenly has 2-3 and 3-8. So it's just impressive. The Jets are finding a way. They're earlier on in that shift, Sean, Cole Perfetti, I understand it was, some people won't call it a cross-check, but he was pushed into the boards blatantly by Tanner Jeannot. He doesn't go around flopping around. He gets up, and then when he gets the puck, Sean, the defenseman disrupts him, but he battles through to get the shot. That allows Alex Iafallo to be able to find the rebound and bury it. So I love that we've talked about perseverance and getting to the blue paint. Well, there's Cole Perfetti going to a hard area, a day after getting a stick to the face, a day after crashing into his shoulder into the goalpost, preventing a sure backdoor tap in. I mean, I love the way that he's battling through right now. I mean, yes, of course, he's looking skyward when he missed an open net on the power play. It was a bad angle, but yes, it's an open net, and that is something that Perfetti wants to bury there and expects to score. So, I mean, it's an impressive stretch of hockey for him. I love the way he's battling through, and We'll get to Hartman in a minute, but yeah, I mean, you're right. The Bick. I wonder, honestly,
here for our podcast folks at home, Ken is laughing because Bick Ronis is bending over backwards in a very hilarious fashion. Like, I like this. He's trying to list all the things that are going terribly wrong for the Jets, and one of the things that he writes is Jets have now given up 2 or more goals in 11 of the past 12 games. I forget what he said before, but
well, the one is a shutout. So the one is a shutout, right? So
yeah, but he's going on about the penalty, the power play, the penalty kill, all these kind of things, and I do find it funny how people are kind of like leaning into all this stuff. I said it on CJOB before the game, like the Jets got to leave the opposition something. They can't destroy every single team at 5-on-5 and be the best team in the league with the power play and be the most stifling penalty kill and have the best goalie. Like, leave some for the rest of the league. What's happening here, people? People in Winnipeg getting greedy these days.
No doubt. And Bick, we appreciate your willingness to continue to stand in. And honestly, my only question would be, what would give Bick Ronis joy? That would be my only question to you.
I honestly think that this is exactly what gives Bick Ronis joy.
Okay, well, there you go.
And trying to rain on the parade, to manufacture rain on the parade is definitely. I think I'll be honest. I bet you he's smiling at his computer right now. So
there you go. Put that last one up about the President's Trophy. I mean, I think that.
This is a great conversation to have.
We're talking about a pace of play that is, I think, I'd have to double check, but according to Avco Cup, the Jets are ahead of the pace from the year that they finished second in the President's Trophy race. So now, of course, it's a long way. Long way to go for them to be, stay at that pace. But I mean, right now they are definitely in the vicinity. Sean, I mean, you said it. I mean, they're, for terms of points percentage, they're rolling with the best teams in the NHL right now, and it's not smoke and mirrors. This is, it's so funny. I mean, when I was thinking of the conversation with Stamkos that we were having this morning, Sean. Talk about a guy who's got his finger on the pulse. Everything that he was saying about how the Lightning haven't been consistent or put together a run of points is exactly what the Jets are doing. Like, just ripping off, here's 9 games with at least 1 point. I mean, it's just an impressive scenario because, like, these guys are winners, Sean. Steven Stamkos know what it's like to win the Stanley Cup. John Cooper, he knows what a good team looks like. So when these guys are talking that way, it's not about it's not empty calorie compliments, like I said earlier. I mean, this is an interesting one too. Elias McCracken, toss that one up there. Is Stamkos available?
I don't know.
Sorry, right here.
No, he's not. End of conversation. Is Stamkos available? No, I wouldn't think so. BA split saying trade for Stam. God, talking with Stamkos earlier on today, the guy's like so interesting to talk to.
Oh, tremendous.
He really is one of the best ambassadors of the league, I've thought, for a long time now, going back to 2015, where he just very much in that final against Chicago Blackhawks was taking a look at a guy like Jonathan Toews and being like this is the guy that I'm trying to be. They are them. We are trying to become them. I always thought it was an interesting scenario when he ended up becoming becoming him, and in so many ways, in the way that he handles himself, in the way that he carries himself in the playoffs, raising his level in the playoffs, all those kind of things. President's Trophy, I'll just talk quickly on that. I can see it, and I'll be honest, like this game that the Jets are playing, I think is repeatable, right? Like, even we talk about the first period and Rick Bowness not being happy with the Winnipeg Jets first period, but they're so locked into their structure that even when they're not operating at full capacity, it still is a scenario by which the other team is only able to generate 1 goal and only able to do that on the power play, right? Like the Jets are so locked in on this right now. I think it's a long way to fall for them to fall out of this. So I mean, I don't think this is a fluke, and I don't think that this is something that's going to tail off. And there's Ken. I guess I'll ask it to you like this, Ken. A lot of times when teams go on heaters like this, right? And we've seen a lot of teams over the years. I forget, it was at the Islanders a couple of years back that had won like 12 or 13 or 14 games in a row or something like that. And you'll always hear these stories out of the coaches who will say, yeah, by about game like 9, we had bad habits starting to creep into our game, and it was problematic, and the pucks were just going in for us. And then by the time they finally lose, by the time that bubble is burst, the team actually plays pretty terrible for a while, because what happens is teams kind of fall in love with the success, the goal scoring, all those different kind of things. But what they usually leave behind at some point is the grind that it takes to get successful. I think what makes the Winnipeg Jets so good, Ken, is that they seem to have embraced the grind more than anything. When they come out and they've won, I think you saw it tonight from Vladimir Nemestikov, you saw it from Rick Bowness, you saw it from Neil Pionk. They won another game. There's not a real yeah, we won kind of mentality to it. There's like, okay, now we get to get back and dig into the grind to see what happens next time, right? Like, I think the Jets have fallen in love with the grind. And if you're a coach who's able to get your team to lock into that, it's such a special thing, because if you can get your team to fall in love with the things that lead to success ahead of scoring the goals or the nice fancy play or the win itself, I think it becomes sustainable. And so because of that, I think the Winnipeg Jets for sure are a danger to win the President's Trophy, because right now, like we said, the Colorado Avalanche win again tonight, and they hop in front of the Jets. And I know the Jets have 2 games in hand, and points percentage they're ahead of them. I'm surprised that Colorado's still been going. And one of the things that surprises me, Ken, is if you're watching from afar, their games are a bit of a hot mess that they keep coming out on top of. Now, I'll say this. Someone said earlier in the chat, where do I have it here? Okay, Robert Sutton says, you do not need a perfect game to win. Good teams find a way to win. Pure, clean, and simple. The Winnipeg Jets aren't finding a way to win. The Winnipeg Jets are just playing a game plan that makes it hard for them to lose. The Colorado Avalanche are finding a way to win right now. And I'll tell you this, Ken, I'll take a team that wins because they play the game the right way and they just do it consistently over and over and over. I'll take that team over a team that finds a way to win any day of the week.
No, I hear you. And I mean, you need to find a way to win when you don't have your best. And I mean, you could argue the Jets weren't at their absolute peak today. No, that's true. I mean,
we're down 1-0.
But it was exactly, it wasn't, they weren't down 3-0. They weren't struggling to make passes or exit the zone or some of the things that have plagued the Jets. There weren't a barrage of backdoor tap in chances. You didn't have to have people, flying around and the Jets played a composed game. Were they at their best? No. Sometimes their puck management wasn't quite as sharp, but what did they do? They battled. They got a big goal from Neil Pionk, who, drops another classic, Sean, to Brendan Dillon. It's about time he found me. Like, this is funny. Yeah. Neil Pionk, doesn't love scrums. Doing media is not his favorite thing, but he's able to crack a joke about it because Brendan Dillon is the guy who's always saying, I'm always telling people I'm open. So here's Neil Pionk saying, well, it's about time Brendan Dillon finally found me. So, there's another great example. There's a hard-working goal. There's a, high slot tip as 2 defensemen get involved, but they can get involved because the forward is covering, and it's not going to be a 3-on-1 the other direction. For me, I don't think the Jets played poorly in the game. Do I think it was their absolute best? No. But I think that this was exactly the way that John Cooper wanted the game played. He wanted a lower event game because he was rolling with 5 defensemen, several of whom are not of Tampa Bay Lightning quality when it comes to defensemen. I mean, Sean, again, we're not going to spend much time on the Lightning here, but 13 forwards and 5D out of absolute necessity today. And Victor Hedman plays 29 minutes and 14 seconds. I mean, there was not a lot of help on the back end there, but I mean, the Lightning did a good enough job to prevent the Jets from, getting a high volume shot game. But this is what we saw, Sean. When the Jets got going, they had cycle shifts where they were able to change the line and wear down those defensemen over time. And then they started getting on, then they kind of took it to them and found a way to extend the lead. And then Andrei Vasilevsky makes a critical error. You just cannot have that turnover. I mean, this was vintage. This was Stuart Skinner in Game 4 getting beat to the puck, right? Don't you think it was kind of the same idea? I mean, not the same play, but in terms of what it meant for the game, like Vasilevsky can't have a turnover to Vladislav Domestikov at that stage of the hockey game. You just can't.
No,
the game's it's a one-shot game at that point.
So like exactly, and like I'd said,
he knows better is what I'm trying to say.
So I get it, but I'd said this is what the Winnipeg Jets do to teams. They take the star players on the other team and they make them feel like I got to do something outside of our team structure. I got to do something special to get us back into this game. It's why. So I was really excited to see how the Winnipeg Jets matched up against the Minnesota Wild, because the Minnesota Wild can grind, and I want to see how the Jets held up or maybe surpassed that grind. They surpassed that grind. The next thing that I'm really looking forward to is how the Winnipeg Jets will go up against Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, because we're seeing those guys have picked it up. They're going. The Edmonton Oilers, I think, are I honestly, I think they're a lock to make the playoffs. People can look back on this show if it doesn't work out, and they can mock me for it. I think they're going to the playoffs. Check the receipts, and they're looking really good. I think Connor McDavid had a 5-point night tonight. I was hearing, I think it's 5-2. They're looking good, right? But I wonder what those two would look like against the Winnipeg Jets, because I do think what the Winnipeg Jets do to players like that at this stage, which they did to Vasilevsky tonight. Vasilevsky's a special player, even though he's a goaltender. He's thinking, geez, I can only do so much to affect the outcome of this game by making saves. Maybe I need to do something dramatic. He tries something dramatic and it ends up in the back of their net. This is just the Winnipeg Jets taking teams and making them feel like their team structure is not enough to beat the Winnipeg Jets, so they need to do something special to beat the Winnipeg Jets. And this is what I'm talking about, the Jets psychologically breaking teams in games. I think they do it time and time again. I think they did that tonight with Andrei Vasilevsky.
Yeah, fair. And I think sort of, as I was saying the words out loud, I mean, he knows better, but I think Andrei Vasilevsky also knows that his defense core is struggling. So he thinks that he can get the puck past Vladislav Domestikov to get a breakout going, right? That's the only reason why he tries that play right there, knowing there's a guy in the vicinity. And we talked about this with Steven Stamkos also in the morning when I asked him about Vasilevsky. I mean, he said it's great to have him back, but let's not forget the guy missed several months. And you don't just go from missing several months to being an all-world goalie who doesn't ever get beat. I thought Vasilevsky made a couple of absolutely absurd saves today, Sean. I mean, the save that he made on Gabriel Velarde, all world, and he stayed with them. This is a very nice move to the backhand, and wow, he made the save. I mean, and Gabriel Velarde couldn't believe it. He's like, whoa.
Yeah.
That was impressive. But man, I mean, Hellebuck steady, rock solid again. Before we get to the deadline, let's. We're almost halfway through. Let's.
Okay. Well, hold on. Before you move on, I just wanted to say, I think to your point about Vasilevsky, played great, but that play, you were right. He knows better. That's deserving of the pristine wake-up call of the game, and you know what that means. It's time to give our main man, North End Rick, the Pristine Roofing wake-up call. Give them a call at 1-204-981-6289. If you want to call Pristine themselves, their number is 1-204-237-7663. But North End Rick's the guy you can call to get him down. Have a look at that roof. Have a look at the siding. Have a look at your exteriors. Tell you exactly what you need. He's also the guy that you should text right now if you are interested in tickets to the home renovation show. Pristine Roofing generously handing those out to people like Kenny and Renny. So there it is, 1-204-981-6289. Let North End Rick know if you want to head to the home renovation show, and also let him know if you have any roofing, exterior, siding needs. He's the guy to get a hold of. There you go. Ken, you were talking about, oh, sorry, I wanted to do this too. Well, before we get too far ahead on this, I love this one here. G Raw says, my 3-year-old daughter does air guitar for the headband song. Who am I to leave a 3-year-old up at this time of night, not with the ability to play the air guitar? So you know what it means. It means it's time to make this a Sean's Headband version of the Kenny and Renny Show. Let's hit it. All right, Ken.
Hang on. We got to make that your ringtone somehow. We got to find.
I've been
somebody.
trying.
I know. We got to find somebody to get on that.
I can't seem to.
Let's check the chat room here. Let's anyone in the chat room have some tips. Let's send them Sean's way.
Oh my goodness.
We got to find a way here.
Remo says that he knows how to do it. My daughters. Here I have got teenage daughters, or one that's a teenager, one's about to be a teenager. I thought the point of having kids is that when you got old and lost the ability to understand technology, that your kids took over for you. Both my kids have taken a crack at it and can't figure it out. Remo,
and they're smart kids. You got smart kids.
They're smart kids. Yeah, they're not overly interested in the internet, kids. So maybe that helps. That's probably something that I like. But hey, I wanted to say this. I don't know who loves bringing this up more, you or I, about the idea of you breaking up the third line. It's clearly me. We know it's me who loves to bring it up. I was going to say this on a serious note as we hit 590 and maybe close to 600.
Tremendous work, people. Tremendous work.
Had the show here. Alex Iafallo and going cold the way that he did, and kind of sticking with him and not breaking stuff up and not moving him on the third line, doing all these different kind of things. Mark Scheifele, not kind of going cold a little bit lately, and that top line going cold in the way things have gone. I just think that is more of the reason. I know a lot of people look at that and think that means it's time to break this stuff up. If the Jets were losing or coming close to losing, or even if they were losing but losing by a significant number of goals or something like that, I could be bought into that. But my whole take on this whole thing, and I know that the numbers suggested that the third line went a little bit cold for a while. No one is going to operate at 100% throughout the entire season. But what you can do as a team is you can have guys pick up the slack for when the other guys aren't operating at 100%. And so when Mark Scheifele's line, after Kyle Connor went down and Velarde moved up to that line and Nick Ehlers was moved up there, went on an absolute heater. Okay, they've got you covered off. I guess my whole take on this is the way that the Winnipeg Jets are playing and the way that their system is. And like I've said, they've got a system that gives them an opportunity to win every night. Never mind that they've got a system now that makes it so that they are hard to beat on every single night. I just think the idea of moving around and shuffling lines and breaking things up is not. I get the idea, and I get people want to do that, and I get they want Mark Scheifele's line to score 7 goals a night, and then the third line to get 4 goals a night, and the second line to chip in with 3 or 4, and the fourth line to get 1 or 2, and the Jets win 17-0 every single night. I get that, but I just think that as long as this team game exists the way it does, there doesn't need to be a sense of urgency to constantly be trying to fix something that you don't think is working. There's time to just say, listen, it's not operating at 100% right now. Give it some time to find its way back. And I think that's I don't know if that was part of the argument I had before about not breaking up the third line, but because we've seen of what the third line is capable of at its peak, and because we're seeing now what this fourth line is capable of, and so on and so forth, when things aren't going so well, as long as they're winning, I don't need to see things broken up to try and make things work. If the overall product is working, and I think IFL is an example of that tonight. Now all of a sudden it's working again. That line is looking like it has something. The patience that you've stuck with for that line is something that it's a luxury that the Winnipeg Jets can afford, and a luxury I think the Winnipeg Jets should lean into. And I say this, Ken, knowing that Vladimir Namestnikov and Mark Scheifele got flipped in the third period of this game here to try and get something going. Yeah,
I mean, I understand completely where you're coming from, and I'm okay with continuity, Sean, but when I suggest these things, it's because it's not in case of emergency break glass scenario. It's to see what you have in case you do need it, maybe when things aren't going well. So that would be my only counter. And no, I'm not saying break up everything.
It's a very Paul Maurice era. I mean, he used to bring that up a lot, moving guys around for the sake of saying it's something that we can go back to, right? Yeah.
Best time to try it out is when you're going well.
But see, I disagree. I think that's the worst time, because now you're switching stuff up and you may lose your mojo. Now, to be honest with you, Ken, I don't think the Jets can lose their mojo, because I think that they've got this team game that they lean on. And so even if they get switched around, so I have to say the argument you're making right now, I do think the way this Jets team is, they could survive that. They're the kind of team that you could do that. But I also think that this is a team that's roles are so defined that if you switch from lines, I'm not worried about seeing what Morgan Barron looks like playing next to Gabe Vilardi. And the reason I'm not is because their games are so defined that I think that when they play together for the first time, it's probably going to go well, because they both know what to do and they both know what brings them success on the ice.
Yeah, totally fine. But I'm just saying that based on how we'll see what happens if the Jets add a top 6 player at some point. I just think that even with those defined roles, at some point you're going to need Niederreiter up in the top 6 at some point, because the offense is going to require a boost. And I don't think you necessarily need 30 games of him up there. But again, we've seen it today. He was out on the ice again with Perfetti, and they generated a glorious scoring chance. So I just think that there's some built-in chemistry there. And naturally, Nemestikov ends up out there with Ehlers, and yes, of course it was a turnover, but they find a way to get something done again. And I've just been curious too. I mean, I'm with you. I think that, Nikolai Ehlers and Mark Scheifele will get it figured out the way that they did before the Christmas break arrived and disrupted the chemistry. But there's something I'm curious to see what Cole Perfetti looks like with Mark Scheifele at some point as well. And we know that Mark Scheifele loves to play with pace, so maybe Perfetti and Vilardi, they're both not burners, so maybe that wouldn't work. But there's a lot of smarts that come with that trio, and I think that they could be dangerous. Whether it's on the power play together at some point, which is something they obviously, are going to need to look at some point here again. But I'm also, again, because when I say I follow with Lowry and Appleton, it's not a demotion. It's because I think that Alex Iafallo does many of the same things that Nino Niederreiter does, except he's not as physical a player. But he is a disruptive type of forechecker who's incredibly smart. I would even say his game tilts a little bit more defensive than Nino Niederreiter's does. But that's not a knock on Niederreiter, because he brings a physical element that is, impressive and shows up in a game like this where that line is going up against Braden Point and Steven Stamkos and Anthony Cirelli at times and Kucherov. So, again, I'm not banging on the drum saying change everything, not at all. But I do think that they have an opportunity to check out a few things. And one quick thing here. We got Reg here. Just a quick thought here. Reg Dunlop, why was there no penalty on the high stick to Nino Niederreiter? Well, in real time, what we saw on the ice, Sean, the referee makes a symbol that he thought it was, two players like accidentally colliding, but he thought that it was the helmet of Kucherov that catches Niederreiter in the face, when it was clearly, this is clearly a high stick, but the ref doesn't get to see it in real time, and he thinks it's the heads colliding, and maybe the visor cuts Niederreiter. Now, I get it. Phyllis says here, Lowry gets a penalty for something he didn't do. The Tampa player got hit by Philippe Myers' high stick.
Right.
But Lowry doesn't go all crazy. He goes to the box, sit down, and
handles it the right way.
Even when the Lightning score a power play goal, Lowry doesn't shake his head. He doesn't go to the ref, doesn't do anything. He skates to the box, gets ready for his next shift. So I love that response, even though inside he's probably sour. We know he is, and he probably had a quiet conversation on the side, but that's how you handle a penalty you don't like. You don't have to go nuts. And I get it. It's an emotional game. Sometimes people will go nuts, but that's the way you handle it. It's unfortunate for Niederreiter. He gets a stick in the face, clearly. It was accidental, but it's still a penalty. But again, it's not disrupting. Like you said, Sean, they don't get, in the past, Jets would kind of get unnerved by something that would not go their way. And now they're just kind of rolling with the punches and like, power play goal allowed, no big deal. Let's go get one at 5-on-5.
Yeah.
So
control what you can control.
Sure, and that's what they've been really good at.
So well. They do it absolutely so well. I'd like to, just to kind of back up what you're talking about with splitting things up. I do have to say, I did like seeing the look of Vladdy Nemestikov getting out on that line and then, basically makes that goal happen. The way that he finds Ehlers, it reminds you that there's that chemistry that already exists between those players. And Nikolai Ehlers is on the record as talking about how much he loves playing with Vladdy Nemestikov. So even as I am sitting here saying, leave it alone kind of thing, this is a team that they're in a situation.
You're coming over to me, buddy. Just say it. You don't feel bad. You should do it.
There's as long as they keep winning, there's not a reason to go there. But they did make a change. Rick Bowness said he wanted to see a change. I think more than anything, he's trying to just wake Mark Scheifele up and say to him, listen, we need more from you, and we're not going to just sit here and not put a guy up here who we think can do something like that. I don't think for a second this means that Vladdy Nemestikov has moved and he's on that line for good. I think it's his way of saying, look, these guys scored without you. It's time for you to get going and being the guy that we know can carry that line the way you have in the past. But moving Vladdy up, that most definitely paid off. And if you're looking to pay off high interest credit cards or debt, we suggest you go talk to our friends at Cambrian Credit Union about their payoff loan. They can show you how taking out a loan to pay off your debt actually gets you debt-free faster. And you can save thousands of dollars. Go to cambrian.me.ca to book an appointment online. And Ken, before we do move on, because people are asking for it, we should talk a little bit about trade deadline in this situation, because I actually think it's a fascinating conversation to have. But give us a shout out to Sweet Lou before we do that.
Sure. For folks who have realty needs they'd like to have met, you can contact our main man, Lou Furlan, at Royal LePage Dynamic Realty, 204-791-9971, or at the office, 204-989-5000. His email is lou@loufurlan.ca. That's LOU@LOUFURLAN.ca. Lou Furlan, excellent realtor, excellent human being, and excellent supporter of the community, including this podcast. Had a great quick visit with Lou this afternoon, and he's fired up for an excellent season of sales in the real estate market.
Okay, I think Matthew Thompson absolutely nails this way. He's looking at the issue as it stands. Question for both Kenny and Renny: is picking up another top six forward worth risking the team chemistry? Individual skill may not outweigh the team component. Ken, this is going to be the question for this team heading into the trade deadline. What are you thinking about that question, and what are you thinking they do?
Certainly a fair question, but this is the job of the pro scout, and this is the job of the people in the organization. You identify someone who thinks that they can help your team, and B, the person has to fit. He has to be a fit. You're not going to bring in a disruptive force and think, you can keep them under wraps for 2.5 months. I mean, that's just not the way a lot of successful teams work. So for me, I think the Jets' needs are pretty defined. At the same time, I do think that there will be some temptation, Sean, that for the Jets to go with the Doug Armstrong model, where the year that they won the Cup, they didn't make an addition. Right, in 2019, they rolled with what they made their, they had some changes going into the year, but they didn't go nuts at the deadline and add. They were already the hottest team in the NHL down the stretch. So they didn't go out and get someone because they didn't find someone that they thought maybe fit as well. The Jets have done a good job of identifying people that fit in terms of both, skill set and, demeanor, if you will. So, I think the Jets will be doing their due diligence. They will be looking, and if they can find the combination platter of a great individual that has a skill set that could help be part of the movement, they'll do it. And the reason, Sean, some people think about the disruption immediately. Well, how come there's not a disruption for AJF or for Dominic Toninato, who now has 4 points in 4 games? Now, I understand this is a different type of
Weeb.
This is a different role of player than the Jets will be looking to bring in. However, It's the same idea. Like people, those guys are not playing 15 minutes a night. They're not playing 20 minutes a night. They're not taking someone's job on the second power play unit or on the first power play unit. But at the same time, Sean, we've talked about this. Look, Vegas is a great example. They went out, identified a singular need. They wanted someone to play on the top line with Jack Eichel. They got a Stanley Cup champion. They got a versatile player who, let's not forget, Sean, at one point in the series with the Jets, Ivan Barbashev was on the fourth line when they switched things up. He played the majority of the playoffs on the first line, but at one point in that series, the Vegas Golden Knights felt comfortable enough in both the player and their structure that they broke up what is one of the, is the best fourth line in hockey and moved Nicholas Waugh up in the lineup and moved Barbashev down. So you need to find someone who is a winner, who is driven to win, but is also a guy who can fit in with the sort of fun-loving but business-like attitude that the Jets bring to the rink. Do I think those players are out there? Absolutely they are. I've talked about Chris Tanev on this program before. Chris Tanev is a perfect fit for the Winnipeg Jets. There is history with the organization. No, it wasn't the Jets. It was the Moose. But Chris Tanev would know absolutely what he would be in for if he were to find himself on the market and move to Winnipeg. He's familiar with the city. Yes, it was a while ago when he was a member of the Manitoba Moose, but he knows how the organization operates. He knows the city. He knows that this is a team that is trying to win hockey games and trying to win a Stanley Cup. So that's an easy yes for me if there is a price tag that makes sense. When it comes to the forward group or what they're doing, I don't know. We've seen the Jets if, as our friend Elliot Friedman says, the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. The Jets have gone out and traded for centers that were of the impact variety or hoped to be of the impact variety on two deadlines when they had a very good team. So in this scenario, it would stand to reason that might be a target. I'm not saying they have to get a center. I think if you get a winger, you can still get what you want. If you get an impact winger because of the versatility of Vladislav Nemesnikov. But if your best fit is a centerman, go out and get him. Some people have been asking, I start a couple. Dom is one of them. Is Sean Monahan that person? For me, Sean Monahan, I'm mixed. We talked to our friend Eric Engels, and he was raving about Sean Monahan, right?
Yeah.
How he's been able to battle back from the knee injury and all of those things. But to me, he might be a perfect fit, and maybe he is a fit. But to me, I don't know that he has the giddy up and go to play the style of the Winnipeg Jets, Sean. I'm not saying he can't, but yes, he is a responsible enough player. He does a lot of things well, can score. But over time, I don't know that he can play with the pace that the Jets would require of that second line center position. I'm not saying he can't win faceoffs. I'm not saying he can't help the Jets power play. But I'm not sure that Sean Monahan is a top 6 player on a championship hockey team. That's what I'm saying today. I'm not saying it's impossible. Maybe he's a fit like Paul Stastny, because Paul Stastny wasn't a burner either. He ended up being a perfect fit for the Jets. But I'm not sure Sean Monahan is a 4-round, 16-win player that can immediately boost the Jets' top 6. Now, what do you think?
Monahan, I wouldn't go to Monahan.
I think they're aiming higher. I got to just say it that way. Sorry.
No, for sure. They're aiming higher. And I would say from what I'm hearing, I would suggest that the Jets are more poised to make a big swing this year than I think that they ever have been before, because I'm just hearing too many things about too many names that I like.
Sure.
It's starting to sound like, Rutger McGroarty is the only untouchable is from a lot of the things that I've been hearing. Now, that doesn't mean that you're going to turn around and trade Colby Barlow for a bag of pucks or anything like that. But I'm hearing things this year that I don't remember hearing about the Jets. And I think what the Jets have done in the past quite often is they've let the market go crazy and they've let guys slide by and they've said, you know what, we'll go find a guy like Stastny who we think we can get here, and we'll do, almost as good of a job, a fairly reasonable facsimile, right? And I think that the Jets have confidence that their scouts can do that. And so I think what they do think is they can take a swing that they're comfortable with without giving away too much, and still go find someone who can do that. But I'm wondering if this year, the way things are looking, the way that, I think they take a look at, they're looking around the league, and I think they see vulnerability. And so I think what they're saying is, yeah, we've gone out in the past and we've got reasonable facsimiles of what we really, really need. And sometimes it works out near 100%. Sometimes it only worked out by about 50%. I'm thinking that maybe this year the
Kevin
Jets
Hayes.
the Jets would be more likely this year than any other year to go out and be like, look, we know it's going to be a steep, painful price, but we think that this guy makes us impenetrable. And if they feel that that's going to happen, I think that they could be the team this year that goes and spends and maybe overspends to go get that player, because this is the way you need to look at it. Now, everyone's looking at the Winnipeg Jets and they're seeing the heater that they're on, and they're saying they beat the Boston Bruins in the middle of this stretch, and they beat Colorado, and look what they did to Minnesota. And everyone is taking a look and they're saying, okay, the Winnipeg Jets, they're for real. They beat these teams. They're on a streak. They're probably the best team in the league. I think one thing a lot of people fail to do when it comes to the playoffs is look at it and say, listen, the playoffs are a different animal because you run into a team that is going to sit and try and pick away at your vulnerabilities, and that's how they're going to try to beat you. I always say this. I know that some people disagree, and some people will say statistically the Jets series should have turned out different. The Jets were the better team, I thought, by far in 2018, but they recognize, the Vegas Golden Knights recognize that the Jets are a team that loves flow. And if they can interrupt their flow, that could really kind of discombobulate the Jets. And they did that. And I think that I'm a big believer that they got out-coached in that series, and they just could not find their rhythm. So if you're the Jets, what you're doing is you're looking at yourself and you're saying, is Vladimir Nemeskov everything that you need as a second-line center? Do we have everything that we need on defense? And they're basically taking a look at their own team and saying, what are our vulnerabilities, and how can we address that to make it so that the Winnipeg Jets do not have a vulnerability heading into the playoffs? You've got a really great team here that knows how to play this. To your point, Ken, you've got you've got a team that I don't think they need a lot, but I do think that there are spots where are you really going to say, like, if we go and face the Dallas Stars in a 7-game series in the second round, are they going to be able to, with the lineup that they have, exploit the second line of the Winnipeg Jets, or the fourth line, or the defense on this side or that side? Because that's what you have, is you have really good coaches taking a look and digging into you and saying, is there a vulnerability there? So I know a lot of people are saying, don't touch anything. Don't get in the way. What you're seeing right now is the Winnipeg Jets. Yeah, they beat the Boston Bruins. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to burst your bubble and tell you that wasn't the best version of the Boston Bruins that we've seen so far this year, right? So just because they beat the Boston Bruins doesn't mean you get to say we're better than the Boston Bruins. Don't break anything up. You have to see what that team does at their best and see if they are able to exploit vulnerabilities in you. So if you're the Jets, you're taking a look right now at what's out there. Does it fit a vulnerability, and does it make you ironclad? Because that's what this Jets trade deadline is going to be about. It is about making the Winnipeg Jets absolutely ironclad. And so if there is a player out there that fits the needs or the weaknesses that the Winnipeg Jets have, I can foresee Kevin Cheveldayoff spending whatever price it takes to get those this year, because I think the Jets have a massive amount of belief in their team this year, as they should.
Yeah, no doubt. And, again, I've mentioned this name before too. Pavel Buchnevich, to me, is a guy that could be an impact player in the playoff time of year. St. Louis Blues are, kind of still hanging around. Frank Vatrano is a guy who I've kind of wondered about the Jets earlier on. I mean, a little bit undersized, but he does, scores goals, gets to the hard areas. Again, I prefer Buchnevich, but maybe the price tag is lower for a guy like Vatrano. I mean, the Jets are definitely going to be going in kind of full on mode here in the next couple of weeks, Sean. I mean, we're already into January, so that means we're just over 2 months away. And, I think that you agree. Of course, some of this is cap related, but I could see Kevin Cheveldayoff not wanting to wait to the last minute. I think that because of all the things we talked about, chemistry and all those things, you would want to give a player a little bit more time. If you can, A, preemptive strike, and B, if you can give that player a little bit more time to get acclimated to a new place when you're looking at maybe trying to go on a playoff run, where you're winning multiple rounds. I think that's certainly going to be the case. And I just have to say this quickly. I know that this is running around a bunch of things, and here's Running Man is one of the people that don't need help and why fix what's not broken, screw up chemistry. Well, that's fine to say, but it's a different beast in the playoffs. And, the one thing the Jets, outside of their run to the conference final, they don't have a ton of guys with a lot of playoff experience. So trying to upgrade is part of what good teams do. That's what good teams do. They don't always do it, and it doesn't always work. But I'm the opposite of what Al Broderick said. Adding talent is not a slap in the face of the people who are here. It is a compliment to them. It means they believe in those players, but they believe that they need a little bit more help and a little bit more depth in trying to win. So,
well, and the other part about this, who had said this here? Oh, In Bones We Trust says we are family. Now let's have a divorce. Boo. Like acting like going and adding someone is going to be taken as an insult. You're talking about a team full of guys right now who have been told that their role is like be ready and hop into the lineup and do it. This is already happening. Like when Dominic Toninato goes out of the lineup, which I think is going to happen eventually, or someone else gets pulled out, they're not saying, what? I thought we were family. I've been stabbed in the back. Let's move on. These guys want to win, and they all understand what their role is, and they're professionals. So what they do if you go out and get Elias Lindholm, one of the guys who comes out of the lineup, it's not going to be Vlad Namestnikov. It's not going to be Cole Perfetti. It's going to be one of these guys who is basically fighting to keep their head above the water in the NHL. The Dominic Toninatos, the Gus Busses, maybe even Kapari is going to be finding himself in that situation. Those are the guys who are going to be in this situation, and they get why they're in that situation. They get how they need to conduct themselves in that situation. And then they get that being a detraction from the team is not something that happens here. So all these people who are saying that this is going to blow up team chemistry, I would argue it's the opposite. Look at what this team was able to do in bringing in Kapari, in bringing in Iafallo, in bringing in Velarde. This is a team that wants to win. So they're bringing guys in and they're making sure they feel part of something. I think the Winnipeg Jets lineup is poised to be the team that adds whoever they need to, makes it work. And the guys who get popped out of the lineup say to themselves, that sucks, but I'm going to fight to try and get myself back into the lineup. And once I get there, I'm going to impact the game the way that Gus did when he came in, the way that Rasmus Kapari did at the beginning with his speed, the way that we're seeing Dominic Toninato do it right now, the way that we're seeing AJF do it right now. So count me as one of those people that doesn't think this Winnipeg Jets team is so absolutely fragile that adding a good player that fits their system and makes them a better team is going to allow them to have all kinds of discord and absolutely fall apart just by adding that new player in there. Ken, we got to get to the Johnston Group got you covered play of the game. What do you got?
Yeah, I was tempted on using this for save of the game, but I think the got you covered is the sequence that Connor Hellebuck has with Anthony Cirelli. Great poke check. The puck is in the air and he bats it out of the way. Like it's a vintage play for got you covered. I mean, it's not something that we see a whole lot of, and it is something that was very important in terms of where the game was at. I mean, that was Connor being very calm, but he made a smart read. In a situation that could have been an easy tap in, he made a smart read initially, and then when the puck is in the air, bats it out of trouble. So for me, that's why I'm going with that play. There were other plays that you could have chosen, or you could choose, but for me, that was one that kind of caught my attention today.
Nailed it. Nailed it. And that's the Johnson Group got you covered play of the game. And do you run a small business in Canada? Look to Canada's #1 employee benefits plan, Chambers Plan, to give you a competitive edge. Chambers Plan is the simple, stable, smart choice for over 30,000 businesses countrywide. Visit chamberplan.ca to learn more. Keg save of the game. Ken, I'm going to go first on the keg save of the game. And I'm going to say it's Connor Hellebuck on Mikey Asimont when Mikey Asimont gets the puck all alone by himself. And it's a save that doesn't have to happen. I used to play with some guys, and they would always tell me to spear the guy in the mind, they would say. It was this idea of like just getting so into the other team's head that you were like physically doing it. Connor Hellebuck saves this puck with his mind. Now, Mikey Asimont sees a guy skating out of the corner and thinks for a second, oh, maybe I should pass it to this guy way over there, even though there's 2 Winnipeg Jets defenders and sticks that I would have to go to. And then he realizes, no, that's a bad play. Basically, what you're seeing here is a player who used to practice against Connor Hellebuck, knows how hard this guy is to beat, and he basically is given a freebie in front of the net with all kinds of time in the world, and essentially is not able to get off a shot. When he does, he kind of goes backhand and throws it, misses the net. I believe it hits the side of the net. This to me is Connor Hellebuck being so on and having been so on for so long that a player who knows him well enough to have been his teammate just never felt for a second that despite the fact he's got the puck in one of the most dangerous areas on the ice all alone with all kinds of time, that he has no hope of beating Connor Hellebuck. So for me, that is the keg save of the game. What do you got?
I'll agree. I like it. I'm gonna.
You'll okay.
I'm gonna agree with you for once.
Let
buddy.
it ride. There
What's
we go.
happening here? I also like the wraparound save on Asimont earlier on in the game. But
yeah. Okay, so you just said you were going to agree with.
No,
me.
I agree with you. Yes, I do agree with you. Honorable mention. Honorable mention to the other one. I agree with you.
Kind of felt like getting slashed in the face by Ryan Hartman off of the draw is what that one felt like.
Oh,
anyway,
buddy, if it was like that, you would have felt it. Don't worry. If I slashed you in the face, you would have felt it.
I'm telling you, I am feeling it. It hurts right now. You told me that you finally agreed with me, and then you pulled the chair out from underneath.
Oh,
it was
man.
a dirty move. Keg save of the game. That's what I've got. You should share with us your keg save of the game, because if you do, you're automatically entered to win a $50 gift certificate usable at any of the 3 keg locations in the city of Winnipeg, each location finer than the last. And I am going to have to announce that the winner of the keg save of the game is someone who never fails to direct message me both their keg save of the game and their TCB lamplighter. I believe he won the lamplighter earlier in the year, but Hugh Wachenko, you have been putting in the work, putting in the hours, and now the sweet, sweet benefits come back to you in the form of a $50 gift certificate to the keg, usable at any of their 3 fine locations, each location finer than the last. But the first thing you need to do is make sure that you direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. DMs are wide open now, people. SN Sean Reynolds, send me your full name and or send me your email. You can, I think Hugh always sends it to my Instagram. So Hugh, you can just do it there. But
you go.
You got it, Hugh. Congratulations. And time now, Ken, before we go too late, because both of us have to catch a flight early in the morning for the TCB lamplighter. What do you got?
Yeah, for me, I mean, I like the Alex Iafallo goal, but I'm going with the Neil Pionk high slot tip goal from Brendan Dillon on the slap pass. That's my choice for lamplighter. I think there were a number of good candidates, but I definitely do think that one by Pionk, and bonus points for joking but chirping his D partner on the snipe itself.
I'm going to go the Ehlers goal, not because that goal shooting it in was overly pretty, but I mean, this was a big one. It pays off for Rick Bowness to put Vladdy Nemesnikov on that line. Vladdy Nemesnikov is just like, I'm running out of good things to say about this player. Just like a hockey player's hockey player, a coach's hockey player. Rick Bowness absolutely loves this guy. He says he's always so calm with the puck. If you ever saw Vladdy Nemesnikov in real life, he is not an imposing figure. The majority of you, I would think, unless you're like watching his face, he would walk past you on the street or in a grocery store somewhere, and you would never guess for a million years that he was a professional hockey player. And and yet he goes out there and buys himself all kind of time because he never panics, handles himself around really big players, always, just kind of just slowly just works his way through the game, always doing the right things over and over again. And he pulls this off here and gets the goal, which I think sealed this game. And I do think it would have been a different game had he not stolen that puck and got it to Nikolai Ehlers. So I'm going to hand that to him. But what Ken thinks, none of that matters. What matters is what you think was the lamplighter of the game, because if you share that with us, you're automatically entered to win a frosty, delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, brought to you by our friends at TransCanada Brewing Company. If you cannot wait for Kenny and Renny to give you your own frosty, delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, you can head on down to TransCanada Brewing Company and join them in their tap room at 11290 Kenniston, where we will be having our K&R, not December to Dismember. We're going to be having our January for January's sorry, a little bit of a sidetrack here. Okay, well, we'll finish this off. There's the code. You plug that in, copy that, plug that in. It'll take you to the Eventbrite site where you can buy tickets for that show, the January for January's. I just wanted to say this. I have to go and cover off the Vancouver Canucks. Dan Murphy's going to be missing a game, so I'm heading tomorrow to go down to St. Louis to cover off a Canucks game. One of their contests that they're having right now on Canucks broadcast is January for January. So what you and I are just making up on the go in the middle of our shows, other people are paying advertising departments a lot of money for. We're just giving this gold away. So just for the reason that we came up with a brilliant name like January for January's, you Januaries should get on down there and join us in the tap room down there, because it's going to be another awesome event, a Monday game involving the Boston Bruins. Anyways,
brilliant, because you chose it, by the way.
Oh, is that? I never even knew that. I don't know. I was trying to give you credit, but in the end, it was all about me patting myself.
Sorry, quick one before you announce the winner. People, when I said Kevin Hayes, that was when Sean was talking about examples that didn't work. I'm not saying the Jets should go out and get Kevin Hayes again. I was in favor of Kevin Hayes when it happened. It just didn't work out. And
give them a wake up. I thought that was obvious.
It was wake up territory. Sorry, I mean, I love the people in the chat room, as you know. It was. That's not where I was going. Anyways.
All right. Turd Ferguson. You're the Lamplighter winner from our last show, Turd Ferguson. Great name. Great SNL sketch. Uncle Burt Reynolds, who is Norm Macdonald, is playing in that, who names himself Turd Ferguson. Turd Ferguson, you have won the Lamplighter. That means you've won yourself a frosty, delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, brought to you by our friends at TransCanada Brewing Company. If and only if you direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds and send me your full name and an email, which I can send you that voucher. Do that, and you have your very own frosty, delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, brought to you by our friends at TransCanada Brewing Company, the nectar of the gods, ladies and gentlemen. That's it for us, because we got to catch a flight, so no gushy stuff, none of the stuff.
One.
Oh, you're going to do it? You're going to get... Okay, go. I'm going to time you.
Just
45 seconds.
It will be less than 45, but big day for one of my very close friends and mentor, or whatever you want to call him. Dennis Bayak called his last World Junior game today, and I mean, they had a great tribute for him. Craig Button gave him a Flin Flon Bombers jersey. We've talked, Sean, a lot about how much pride we take in being from Manitoba. Dennis is right in that class. He's from Winnipeg Osis. He loves where he's from. Never forgot where he came from. Did an unbelievable job for 11 seasons on the Winnipeg Jets broadcasts. Spent a lot of time with him. And for tonight, I went with the Dennis Bayak tie today. So this is my tribute. I've been fortunate enough to see him recently before going into the event. I was texting with him today. He was fired up about how things went, and I'm going to be lucky enough to see him on this road trip. But Dennis, we love you. Great job. Job well done. Incredible career, and Hall of Fame person and Hall of Fame broadcaster. Tough to find that combo.
Yeah. I don't, and I didn't do anything on Twitter or anything like that. I don't feel like, even though I knew him for a long time, I never got to work with Dennis Bayak. So when it comes to like the conversations that people had about working with him, you got to work with him, Sarah got to work with him, Craig Button, so on and so forth. So many people got to work with him, had the honor of working with him. And all of them have the same thing to say. I don't think there's ever been a broadcaster or someone who worked in in sports media in Canada who ever had a bad thing to say about Dennis Beck. If they did, it clearly would have shown more about their faults and their flaws than it would about Dennis. All I can say is coming on this beat, Dennis Beck always treated me with a ton of respect. When we first started out here, there was no Sportsnet bureau. There was nothing. It was really starting from scratch, and it was an intimidating time starting against TSN that had the broadcast and still has the broadcast rights. It had a radio station. There was about 26 people who worked for TSN, and myself and my camera guy working for Sportsnet. It was not a fair fight, and there would have been ability for that station to bury me and kind of make life hard on me. Dennis Bayek was just a great guy right from the very beginning. Always treated me with kindness and respect, and I will always appreciate that. I don't have anywhere near as much to say about him because I didn't work with him like you did, Ken, like Sarah did, like so many did. I consider you guys lucky for having done that. So I'll make sure that I leave the largest of the tributes towards him to the people who worked for him or the fans who got to enjoy his call. Anyways, great job. Stick tap to Dennis. Stick tap to you all for showing up here tonight. 600
Awesome
strong.
job,
We had
people. Awesome job.
Like I say every show before we do get going here, Ken, if you appreciate the conversations happening in this space, please appreciate our sponsors who fight to keep the conversation going in this space for us. That's Vittorio Rossi, Cambrian Credit Union, Pristine Roofing, Sweet Lou Furlan, the Johnston Group, the Kenny and Renny OGs, the Keg, and of course, TransCanada Brewing Company. Thank you to them. Thank you to all of you. We will see you. I'm going to pull double duty. I'm going to broadcast the Canucks game, race back to the hotel, watch the Jets game, and we will be right there for Kenny and Renny next Thursday after a great game in San Jose, what I'm thinking will be a great game. And Ken, you will be there on the scene. So enjoy yourself on the West Coast. I will enjoy
the sandwich in St. Louis, buddy.
And the meatball sandwich at the Blue City Deli, the best sandwich in the league, according to Renny. Talk to you later, everybody. Bye-bye.